we wind up undertaking questions like, what about personal identity over time? What happens if you don't catch the person for a very long period of time? What happens with a mass murderer who commits so many crimes that if you thought one crime deserved 30 years in prison, but they've killed 100 people, how do we even understand what they deserve retributively when you're aggregating over sort of huge amounts of punishment or potential victims? One thing we argue in the book is that there's actually two conceptions of personal identity at play. So one is when A becomes so different from B, or from the person who's going to be punished now is so different from the person who committed the crime, that they really can say, I didn't do it, as if it were a completely different person. And then there may be other times when, of course, they recognize it, the defendant recognizes herself in it, and yet she says, I don't identify with the person I was at the time that I committed the offense. So when you say to your mom, gosh, why did you wear your hair like that in high school? You certainly understand that to be your mom, and she understands that to be her, despite the fact that a tremendous amount of time has gone by. But you might look back on something you did 4 decades ago and disown it as sort of no longer reflective of your character. And so if you think that what you deserve is sort of kind of a function of who you are, and that it's your character traits that sort of carry that desert with them, then as your memory fades and as you change as a person, you might think you no longer deserve punishment for things you did that you no longer identify with. We talk a little bit in the book about Patty Hearst. We also talk about Kathy Salia, who is actually also part of the SLA. And what was interesting is that those two worked together in potentially trying to injure police officers. And Kathy went underground for about 30 years and winds up being caught as a, cookie baking, community theater playing mom, and the question becomes, should she still be punished for the person that she was? These are the kinds of puzzles that aren't the kinds of questions that a first-year criminal law student is going to necessarily come up against. And yet at the same time, when you really dig about what the criminal justice system is doing or how to think about it, you will ultimately get to this kind of philosophical bedrock.